of Ocean River Shields of Achilles is taking place in Cotuit on Cape Cod. And I am sitting where the river meets the sea in Cotuit Bay. And behind me is the Cotuit Oyster Company. And they began harvesting oysters back in 1857. And they, as you can see on the dock there, they still are doing it today. The web page there of the CotuitOysterCompany.com tells us that Cotuit Oyster Company Incorporated produces a high-quality oyster that has a unique briny flavor, unlike any other. The purity of the water and especially the special chemical makeup account for the flavor of the Cotuit, which is known and demanded in many parts of the world. And this is a particularly good place to be growing oysters because the freshwater streams, as they say on their website, the freshwater streams, marshes and estuaries combined with the clean water from Nantucket Sound entering Cotuit Bay through the Cotuit Channel provide the oysters and quohogs a rich supply of food, a rich food supply. Right. Can I hop off on that shore? A sailor named Childs settled here, left the sailing of the sea, and started raising oysters. And his son took over the business, and here they are today, you know, 150 years later. And you can see today, like back then, they're on the dock there packing the oysters into barrels that'll go into, that'll be trucked into the cities of Boston and New York. The Cotuit Oyster Company has been growing oysters for a long time, and nowadays they use different techniques than they did long ago. They actually have floating bags with the oysters in them that are carefully tethered close to the shore. And this has been a new method that has worried people, boat travelers and navigators, about losing opportunities to sail around in the harbors. And as you can see here, this operation does not disrupt anybody. It is a responsible management of bags of oysters. And then further to the right are orange buoys. And that orange buoy marks the Grant Line, which then extends in front of all these mooring boats out a ways to another buoy. And that marks the far end of the Grant, and then towards us and behind us, behind the camera, is another area for oysters to be grown. And they are actively growing there, but as you can see by the open water, they're not in any way impeding navigation. How about that for a quohog?
Nice.
We find lots of oysters. This is a soft-shelled oyster. This is one of the biggest ones I've ever seen. This is the food of fried clams. And also, not as frequent, but are the quohogs, which when they're smaller than this, are the cherry stone clams that you can have raw sometimes. Quohogs tend to be larger than the soft-shelled clams, and soft-shelled clams are more tender. The quohogs are better for chowder. On go. I'm now in the narrows of Cotuit Bay, and behind me is North Bay, and that's looking north into Cape Cod. So it's from there that the freshwater of the river that's beyond it and fresh water from the sandy substrate is coming into Cotuit Bay. And so Cotuit Bay up here is a little less salty than the Nantucket Sound is further down out the bayment. Cut. is a catboat, and the catboats are extra wide so they could carry more oysters, and also so they could navigate the shoal waters here of Cape Cod. So this is a classic sailing craft for oystering and the shoals of Cape Cod. And one of the issues that are stressing the ocean is the amount of nutrients that we allow to get into our ocean waters. And many of the nutrients are coming off of fields and lawns as fertilizer, and especially in places where there weren't adequate setbacks so that the stuff washing off of fields didn't have a chance to go into the ground before hitting the waterways. We also have a problem with septic systems and cesspools here on Cape Cod because the soil is basically sand. Cape Cod was created by the glacier dropping a pile of sand and rocks here, and so that water trickles relatively quickly through the substrate of Cape Cod to come into our embayments, in this case, in Cotuit Bay. So we see lots of algae growing, which is thriving on the nutrients that are being loaded in here. And a good response to lots of nutrients is to raise oysters and clams and quohogs and mussels and scallops, because they all are filter feeders and they help to filter the water and help to keep it clean.